Unemployment has been a major challenge that Nigeria have continued to tackle over the years, with millions of its youth who are employable and living without jobs of up to 33.3% within the Nigeria economy. This continues to breed all sorts of negativities, including rising insecurity and high crime rates. However, entrepreneurship have been discovered across the world to be the way to lift many youths out of this unemployment and give them a life and livelihood. And of course, in Nigeria, the story hasn't been the same. Nigerians, especially the youth, known for their doggedness, their forthrightness, and their ability to survive in hard terrains, continues to struggle and strive to bring themselves out of the brink of unemployment and the disadvantages that it brings, and get themselves engaged with one entrepreneurial activity or the other. Has it been rewarding? How rewarding has it been for many Nigerian youths? This and many more will be the focus of our conversation on today's edition of Politics Alive. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Olubenga George in Abuja. When I return from this break, I'll be joined by a guest with whom we would look into entrepreneurship and how Nigerians, and indeed Nigerian youths, have been able to turn it around to their advantage and the advancement of the economy in Nigeria. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thank you. Joining me right now is Ugochi Ekenta. Ugochi Ekenta is a business expert and an entrepreneur. But interestingly about her story, she has a 10 years experience on her back in the banking sector in Nigeria. And she decided to delve out of the banking sector to take the risky game of entrepreneuring. Has it been rewarding? And that's I'm going to be asking her, and she's going to share some of her insights and experiences with us on today's edition of the program. It's good to have you join me, Ugochi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Olubenga.
When I hear about, people who just moved from 9-to-5 jobs, paid jobs, secured jobs, and then they decide to take on entrepreneurship, I think I have to sigh twice or more sometimes, because I wonder, how do you do it? I'd like to ask you, having 10 years experience in the banking sector is definitely not a joke. And one would have expected that you are advancing in the financial sector, even when you decide to delve out. But let me ask, why did you decide to, abandon banking as a career, a promising career at that, to go into entrepreneurship?
Okay, Mr. Olubenga, I would actually say that your question isn't new. Is what I get every other time when I tell people I worked for 10 years in one of the best banks, if not the best bank in the world. And they're like, and you left, why? So the thing about it is, in life, for you to actually, one thing with great men, even having their names read in history over and over again, is that they left their names in the sands of times, not washed away. And what drives that, I would say, is passion. In the 9-to-5 job, banking was something everybody knew I excelled. I knew I was performing well because I love to perform well. But I asked myself, what are you passionate about? What sustains people, what sustains a job, what sustains a business is passion. And I realized it wasn't something I was passionate about. Banking has never been my thing. I never had passion for it. I just saw myself faced with the banking opportunity, and I opted out from where I was working into the banking world. And I thought it was something I was going to grow into. I was performing well, quite all right, but I just wasn't feeling it. And then it came to a point I decided to ask myself some basic questions. And those questions the response didn't come out positive. And so it was so clear to me that I was in the wrong profession and field. What were those questions? I asked myself, what are you good at? I love to do things with my hands. I'm not the going out to convince people to open an account, give them reasons why they have to bank with people out of the so many banks and all. And then, what are you good at? It just took me back to work with your hands, just do things for yourself. And I was already doing that. And then I asked another question, what are you passionate about? Again, it wasn't banking. And then I asked myself the third question, if money wasn't the issue or the object, what would you be doing? would you be comfortable working here? And also those questions.
These are very strong and important questions. I mean, coming from you, who was doing well in the banking sector, and a lot of times people do not look in this direction, especially if the job is comfortable. You can pay your bills. You can get to do some of maybe not. But I mean, comfortably, you can, live in Nigeria where millions don't have jobs, where millions, can't even afford to put food on the table. You have this convenience. What inspired your thoughts? Your dissatisfaction? Was there any particular experience that maybe triggered your dissatisfaction or displeasure with the sector where you were, and you felt that I think it's time to move? Because most times it is when we begin to experience negativities, in certain aspects of our lives, that we feel that we need to instill changes. But was there any such experiences, that led you to start thinking about why not on my own?
Okay, there were so many encounters I had personally on the job, outside the job. One, I'm personally someone who likes to think outside the box. I love to challenge the status quo. I don't like to move with the bandwagon. And then I just love to live and not just exist. Working in the bank, it seemed like I was existing. Wake up, go to job, go out if it's time for marketing after the normal meetings, convince people and come out. And I was putting in that whole effort. And I thought to myself, imagine if you were putting in this effort for your business and all. And that was it. That was like a turning point to me. I thought about it. I'm like, okay, every month they clap for me at the appraisals and all that. I'm doing all this. I'm bringing such huge amount of income and all that. This income could be mine and all. And then I go out there. When I meet my targets, immediately, one of the events that actually turned the whole thing around was one of the time I was given a specified target. And then I was excited. I looked forward to the next NPR session that I was going to go out there. I was going to be clapped for and all of that. And then I stood up and I announced I met my target and I exceeded it. And I was so excited. And I was quickly corrected while I was still reporting that I shouldn't be excited, that immediately that the target should be increased. What was supposed to be an exciting meeting for me turned out to be a sober one. The target was immediately increased. And I'm like,
there's a saying that the reward for hard work is more work. Isn't that what just happened to you?
Oh, yes, that was actually what you would say happened to me. But in my mind, as someone who challenges status quo, who is a deep thinker and who always wants to, go a step further to achieving great things, I just felt, okay, now my efforts were not really appreciated there. If I put this effort to myself, I will not just only appreciate myself, I'm going to enjoy the dividends of the hard work. And so that was just it. That was one of the major factors that just made me to realize, you know what? You have to do something for yourself.
All right. Let's talk about your entrepreneurial prowess now. How easy was it for you to, switch from the banking sector into the entrepreneurial sector where you currently practice? And did you spend some time, after you left the banking and said, let me decide on what to do, and then you picked it up almost immediately?
If I'm here to tell you that it wasn't challenging, I would be lying. But on the one hand, it was actually not as challenging as people made it look. Most times I tell people, don't listen to the naysayers out there. Don't listen to what people say. They have a great way of discouraging you or making you take that bold step. I used to think that leaving a 9-to-5 job where everything was just organized and all of that, at the end of the month, you get your salary, you get your pay, most times you wake up and you get this alert and all that, to moving to a place where you just have to put in the work. If you don't put in the work, there won't be sales. And if there are no sales, you won't have money for you and all that. But I thought to myself, I'm like, I came into banking. I came to Abuja from Imo State, not knowing anybody. And I went into banking. The moment I got into banking, I was told I was going to do marketing. And I'm like, who am I going to meet? I thought they say it starts from family and friends. But my family, they're not here. My friends are not here yet. It's cold in the East and all. I'm like, I did it. And I was one of the best performing staff. If I could do it then, talk more of here now, I have the experiences. And one thing the bank would teach you, the bank where I worked would teach you how to be aggressive. I'm like, okay, I could actually move these skills I learned from the bank to my personal business. And another thing was I was very, very, very strategic. I considered some factors that would help my business grow because I just knew I was just going into business now and it wasn't going to be business as usual. I needed to move into something else. So the first thing I did was, this business I'm going to do, I have to make use of my colleagues. So I made my colleagues my customers. So, and these customers became my, I don't know what they call it then, they became my preachers. They started giving me
Your
referrals and all. My
ambassadors.
ambassadors, you will say, thank you for that. They became my ambassadors. And because before you say Jack, everything was moving sweet.
I guess you're one of the lucky ones, because it's not always that easy for most people that decide to delve into entrepreneurship that way. But while we come back to that, I was wondering, you left the financial sector where you had practiced for 10 years. I want to believe that there were skills, like you said, that you have acquired, especially where professionalism in the financial sector is concerned. Perhaps maybe your ability to also be able to, in sales, to be able to turn in, all of the accounts that you did. Why? And from your submission so far, it is clear that you did not delve into a finance-related business, outside after, your banking job. So I'd like to ask, is it because the financial sector is quite difficult or is quite capital intensive? Is that why you did not delve into a finance-related business? These are the days of Bitcoin, where you have professionals going in. These are the days of fintechs, and everybody's trying to have, their own app, have their own financial, so there's quite a lot in that region. Why didn't you delve into it, especially with your experience in banking?
Okay, that's where passion comes into play again. I mentioned passion earlier. Here, passion comes into play again. Now, one would naturally think that coming out from the banking sector, I should move into, like you said, the fintechs, the bitcoins, and all of that. But what I did was, I asked myself again, what are you passionate about? And I realized it was this sector of the business, that's the skincare and all of that. So what I did was to take out those qualities that made me excel while in the banking system. I took out the doggedness, I took out the persuasive spirit, I took out the spirit of bargaining and all of that. Those were the things that made me to excel while I was in the bank. I'm like, okay, I could actually take these qualities and then move them into my business. And I also looked at other factors like the world is evolving. Everybody wants to look good. Everybody wants to come out, glowing and all of that. And this is the banking sector where I've actually worked for 10 years. What are the things, by relating with your colleagues, conversing with them and all of that, what do they spend their funds, their money, their salaries on? And I just realized they spend it, most 75% of them spend it on skincare. I'm like, wow. And it's something I do effortlessly. So you mean if I go into this thing, people feel comfortable buying and patronizing people and brands they know so well. I'm like, so if I go into this thing, I'm going to just grab this percentage of people, and then this percentage of people will have their family members, just like we do in marketing, convincing them that they have a brand they can comfortably rely on and all. And these are, like you said, my ambassadors. So it was easy for me to go into something I know would yield more, aside going to try something else or trying to test the waters. Man is getting old to begin to test waters and all of that. So it was just so easy for me to go into what I'm doing now.
Oh, interesting again that you have, gone in that direction. But you talk about passion, and I personally, I have had to, attend several and read in several books. A lot of people tell you that passion is not as important as profit. So there is usually a wide lacuna between passion and profit. As a matter of fact, most people these days, usually say, forget your passion, look for money. Focus on what gives you money and be passionate about that thing. So following that narrative and, your decision, to follow your passion blindly, is it because you had already foreseen that, the financial advantage that can come from this, it's going to be seamless for you, that it's going to be easier? Is that why you chose to go in the skincare sector, to pursue your passion at the time, despite the fact that, money was coming in from your employment?
Okay, first off, I'll disagree with what you said earlier. Passion actually dovetails to profits. You might just be going about a particular business, but you're not passionate about it. You're just going about it because, they said I should, the society actually, but if you're not passionate about it, in the long run, you lose out, you fall out. And then that's why you hear news of, this business used to be here, but they folded, this company folded and all, there was no passion. For me, I'm passionate about looking good. I'm passionate about glowing. It's all about the glow for me. And so I thought to myself, why don't you just extend this glow to other people and then commercialize it? you're going to be doing these things effortlessly. It's not something you have to like go out there to struggle for and all of that. You just stay in your company, in the comfort of your office or something, do these procedures, mix up some things, package it well, brand them well, talk to people or not even talk to people because you already have your ambassadors, and then it dovetails to money. And I tell people in the 9 to 5 jobs, you get your salary based on your level or whatever. But in the business world is an effort-based salary, incentive, or wages, whatever you call it. The effort you put in a particular month dovetails into what you're going to make in that month. So you can decide to like, I don't want to stress myself this month. What happens? You just get little sales. When people call for orders or order for things, you just hear not available, not available. At the end of the month, you're trying to draw your account balances and all. You notice that you actually you got what you worked for. But when you put in the passion is what will wake you up by 4 o'clock to like start the production. Most times I go to bed by 3 a.m. Not on the phone, not conversing, not chatting, not on the internet, on the Instagram or whatever. I'm producing stuff because I know that by tomorrow I have to send out a DHL shipment to US, to UK or anything. And I know that at the end of the month, these shipments would amount to huge profits. And also you see that there's a very big connection between passion and profits.
Absolutely. I totally agree that passion should lead to profit. But that's not what we have in reality in this part of the world. Especially now, most people who pursue their passion, usually sometimes if they don't get some sort of encouragement or some sort of support, end up being frustrated. But we'll go into other sectors. Let's take a quick break. And when we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
Thank you.
In case you just joined us, this is Politics Alive, reaching you from Alive Television. We've been talking about entrepreneurship in Nigeria, and I've had a lady who is an ex-banker join me on the show to talk about her journey into the world of entrepreneuring. Ugochi, it's been an interesting conversation with you, I must say, since I'm sure that our audience is learning a lot already. But let's begin. Let's look at this conversation from the angle of the fact that most entrepreneurs in Nigeria complain about certain challenges. One of them is government policy. A lot of people talk about how unfriendly some government policies are and makes business and entrepreneurial especially to become unsustainable. So you record this victory within this ample time, and then the next time you go to the market, things have changed. You also talk about increasing prices, inflation, that is happening daily within the Nigerian sector right now. How has all of this, especially government policy and the rising inflation rate, how has it impacted or affected your entrepreneurial drive since you set out from the banking sector?
Oh, well, I would say the government is trying, but it's never enough to try. Government can actually do better to the entrepreneurs. I would say this because the small and medium enterprises are the future of the country, so a lot needs to be done. In the area of inflation, which you mentioned earlier, it's crazy. We would see in the social media, if you see an entrepreneur, just pour water on his or her head or just hug her and dash her small brown envelope. That's actually a joke, which is actually a fact. It's been crazy. I'm currently experiencing one of these policies is affecting me now, and something I can relate. It's not been easy, but a lot can be done. These policies can actually be looked into because I was a startup with nothing and all. People advise, go get the grants, go get the loans and all of that. Government policy affects these loans. You go and the rates they're giving you are like, even if I do this business in the next 10 years, I won't be able to repay this loan. So you're forced to go back to the drawing board and just do something with your savings to start up this business. And when you start up, you have your customers who are patronizing you. But you wake up tomorrow, you want to go buy ingredients. You want to go buy bottles like I do. You want to go buy lots of things for the production. And they're telling you the price of things you bought as at Monday has changed as at Wednesday. And I'm like, what happened? And they'll just cite something that was read in the news, a policy that was given out on Tuesday night or something that affected it. And now you can't, as a business person who wants to remain in business, shoot up your prices immediately. Your customers are going to run. This is a business that is not... It's not like we have a fixed price. You just do your thing based on what you want to give the public. So, and I also advise the government to engage these young people coming up, these youngsters. They are talented youngsters out there. You know, when you engage them, like the popular saying, the idle mind is the devil's workshop. When you engage these people, organize some trainings, give some grants, make these loans accessible and with a reduced interest rate for these people. It's going to the future of the face of the country is going to change drastically because the people I even employ, the little number of people who work for me are just in the middle range. You see the zeal, the passion in them to even do more, and they tell you, I want to be like you, madam, tomorrow, but I don't get the money and all. These monies can be easily accessible because they know that at the end of the day, we'll have a way of returning same to the government or to the country, and it's going to be well for everybody at large.
Well, I say amen to that.
Amen.
That it gets well for everybody at large. Okay, but let's quickly look at it. Recently, since 2020, if you remember, the African Free Trade Agreement had been signed, which opened up the African markets, for entrepreneurs across Africa. I wouldn't know how much of these advantages and how much, of course, the ratification is still ongoing. I mean, even though it's been ratified by over 45 member countries in Africa, I'd like to know how entrepreneurs like yourself are planning or are much aware of these advantages, and you're planning to take advantage of spreading your brand outside the shores of Nigeria to the African shorelines where the African Free Trade Agreement is effective.
Okay, for me, my business has actually left the shores of Nigeria. I think I was lucky too. It has left the shores of Nigeria a long time ago. I actually send my products to the US, to the UK. These are not African countries, but I think with the agreement that the country has gotten into now, one would easily want to jump into it. But then again, I made my research, and there's some processes, there are some steps you need to take.
All right, it's quite interesting and insightful to know that entrepreneurs go through different challenges in the country, especially where policy formulation and management is concerned. However, I hope we have enough time, some other time, to be able to talk about that, on the show. But as we wrap up in this conversation, I'd like you to talk to the potential entrepreneurs there who, are scared, who are, locked behind their 9-to-5 jobs, who are used to that desk, who continue to write their ideas on papers and maybe on their phones, and they're piling it up, hoping that someday when they make enough money, they will come out and begin to pursue their passion and their dreams, like you say.
Okay, I'll start with the biblical scripture that, the story of the talents. Jesus gave this person different, gave this person different one, and some buried it and came back to tell him. And for those that buried their talents, he wasn't happy with them. So I want to tell the young prospective entrepreneurs out there, why should you be scared? I mean, there's nothing to be scared about. The days have gone when you tell people think outside the box. I don't believe in thinking outside the box. I believe in discarding the box. You're filled with these talents. You have these talents. Don't bury them. Come out. Take the bold step. I was in your shoes. I'm like, okay, when I leave the bank after 10 years, what am I going to do? But it just took one night of decision. I'm like, okay, whatever happens, happens. I know I'm a successful person. I've always been successful. I'm going to do it. Come out there. I mean, it takes a lot to be an entrepreneur. You have your time. You control a lot of things. You control how much you pay yourself. Imagine paying yourself. You feel so good. You control everything. Your freedom are in your hands. So you have the power to decide what you want to be, to make and mar yourself. As for me, I tell people, I want to be on the cover of Forbes magazine. And I'm not going to do that with a 9-to-5 job. So that's my goal. That's my target. And being an entrepreneur is just going to take me
Thank you so much. I must say that your last submissions are so inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. It's been a wonderful conversation right here in the studios with Ugochi Ekenta, a business entrepreneur who delved out of the banking sector to dare the impossible. Of course, her dream is to one day appear on the front page of our Forbes magazine. But I'm telling you that you would even go higher than that. I mean, she's got the fire, doesn't she? And that is something you must catch in this episode of the program. You must be fired up to pursue your dreams and know that no matter what stands in the way, you are that person that has the key responsibility to move yourself forward. As Nigerian youths, even as our new government continues to set to come in place, begin to think about your dream, fan your ideas, flame them together, ensure that you do not lose sight of that which you really dream of. And of course, in the end, yours will not just be a salary increment or a reward, but you will find fulfillment and eventual satisfaction. Thank you so much for joining us. I remain Olubenga George. I'll see you some other time.